Good morning, this is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. PsychicTarot.ca, book your tarot reading and unlock your spiritual journey. And the Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind.
Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 4 and episode number, it would be 626 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. 100% Canadian. Today, recording day is Wednesday, April 16th, 2025. La soirée du débat en français. Debate night in Canada, in French. Tonight. Da, 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 da. Hey, they're not using the theme for hockey anymore. Maybe we could use it for debate night.
No, we'd have to get paid a licensing fee.
TSN
owns it. They bought it years ago.
Oh, they did buy it finally?
Yeah, years ago.
Okay,
that's why CBC doesn't have it. Yeah, TSN. That's why CBC doesn't have it.
Okay, no, I thought that nobody bought the rights and that they wrote it.
No. TSN bought it.
Oh, okay.
Trust me, so we might get a copyright violation.
Oh, darn. Well, it was less than 30 seconds, so we might be okay.
Yeah, no, that was the big kerfuffle because everybody insisted that the CBC buy it, but what she was asking, and I don't blame her, she wanted to get paid because it was a new licensing deal, but what she was asking was out of the price range for the CBC, so TSN scooped it up.
Yep.
Because the CBC, being a public broadcaster, couldn't justify the expense, and I get it. It made sense.
Yep, indeed. Debate Night Canada. We got some news about that. Weather, again, like most days this month, gray. Just blah.
Yeah, it's I think it's only 2 degrees here right now.
Yeah.
It's not pleasant here in Canada's capital. No, I'm sorry. I stand corrected. It's -1 and feels like -7.
Oh, joy. In mid-April. As you can tell, kids and cubs, I am here at the Ottawa Beaver Lodge, and of course, the boss, Mr. Alistair McBear, right there watching over us, came to do my civic duty and vote.
Oh, yes.
Yes, because on election day, we will be entertaining you. So therefore, I need to be close to my equipment. So I came to vote yesterday. So as you can tell, my sex appeal has increased by about 27.83% just by voting.
Is that what it is?
Okay. Yes. Yeah, that's that glow I've got going on. Get your glow on. Go vote. My! Don't get that kind of glow. Yikes!
No color.
Yikes!
I switched my camera out because I was having issues, so I had to switch 2 cameras this morning. I switched it to one, and it wasn't working correctly, so I switched to another, and I still can't get it balanced properly. That's why I didn't have any chance to do any research this morning. I was working on this, and unfortunately,
like you were Trump's id. right
Well,
there.
no, I woke up. I woke up at 3 in the morning and didn't get back to sleep till 5. And my plan this morning was when the alarm goes off at 6, get up right away and get started on the tech stuff, and then I can do research so that when 7 o'clock rolls around, I'm ready to go. Well, I woke up at 3 a.m. I was having a vivid dream, and somebody yelled at me in my dream, and I spun around in my dream, and I actually spun around in my bed and woke up.
Oh,
Yeah, that's how vivid they are. So I woke up at 3. I fell back to sleep at 5. The alarm went off at 6. I said, no, I need another 30 minutes. And yeah, so then I spent all my time trying to fix this camera this morning. So that's where I am. Funny thing is, how it looks on this screen and how it looks on the preview screen are two entirely different things. So it's very confusing to me at the moment.
gotcha. Otherwise, mental health is doing well, sir?
Yeah, I think so. I can't really complain, to be honest with you. I'm not fully awake, but that's, that goes with waking up at 3 in the morning.
Yeah, I hear you. I had a fitful night of sleep as well.
Mm.
Of course, I'm trying to, by the way, kids and cubs, if you cannot tell, yesterday when I had to take a little break to sneeze and then go blow my nose because nobody needed to hear me sniffle, all of that kind of stuff, because that's just nasty. Turns out it wasn't just a sneeze, it was the start of a cold.
Well,
So,
your voice sounded kind of scratchy the last couple of days, so I thought that might be
yeah.
the case.
So, yours truly is a bit snubbed up.
Mm.
The decongestants have started to kick in, so hopefully there will be very little post-nasal drip during the show. Because again, you don't need to say that. And from where we sit, we share a lot. Right? I mean, sometimes you get a good look up there. So, hey, if I tell my how bad and laugh, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, doing well because I voted. So I feel good.
Nice.
I've done my bit. All right. And of course, I encourage everyone to do so. Students, if you are on campus, by the way, today is the last day for on campus voting. Remember that you can vote either in the electoral district in which you reside or the one in which you are studying. You get to choose. Last election, because of the pandemic, there was no campus voting, was scrapped. But that was uh, when we had the election before. Over 100,000 Canadians did participate using that method. So it
Oh,
is
wow.
yeah. And today, the 16th, as well, is the day that incarcerated populations get to vote. The polling stations will be wherever you are. Um, I don't know if there's anybody who's incarcerated that does listen to our show, but maybe there are people who have people they love and care about who are. And so they can let them know that today is voting day. I'm sure it will be well advertised and that kind of stuff. But yeah, today is that day. And of course, advanced polling will be starting on the 18th, I believe, and run to the 21st. There will be advanced polling during the holidays. You've got some conservatives starting all over the web going, oh my God, who thought it was a good idea to vote on Good Friday and all that kind of stuff. Again, we need to remind these people that not every Canadian is Christian.
Yeah.
So if
And
voting,
there's non-practicing Christians.
yes. So
You were baptized, but and then there's atheists, and there's like, come on, get over yourselves.
we were C&E Christians, Christmas and Easter.
Yeah.
Well, see, yes, Christmas, Easter, and sacraments.
But this one just kind of is like, I'm like, yeah, not everybody is
Yeah.
you. Stop
So,
focusing on you and try
yeah,
and focus on everybody else.
but stop using yourself as being the common denominator for everyone as well.
Yeah,
It's like
but I
you have
mean,
a problem with voting on Good Friday. Don't vote on Good Friday and leave everybody else the fuck alone.
it's simple as that. It's really,
Jeez.
really not that complicated.
Ugh. And again, right? Because the election date is on the 28th, that means by law, electoral law, early voting has to be this weekend. Okay? So let's calm down. All right, but you're going to see that going on. Conservatives are doing that again. So they
That's
do it with
weird.
no prayer on Remembrance Day. Oh my God, I can't believe we're voting on Easter. Oh my
That
God, they
that
won't let us say Christmas.
that wasn't none of that occurred. None of it. Not a single bit of it.
Exactly. But they do it all the time. They do it every year. They do it right. Whatever. I mean, before their scandal was that they wanted to try to rig the election by voting one day later because they wanted to move it for Diwali.
Yes.
If they have the regular October one, right? There's always a conspiracy. There's always a conspiracy. But hey, that's going on. Yeah, you let them do what they do. You let them scream, and we just move on. Let's see. What do we have? I think we should take a moment and look at some polls. What do you think, Kids and Cubs? From what I've been able to tell, again, as I probably told you before, that there's not a lot of movement during pre-election week, and often, if there's anything, there will be a slight tightening. There has indeed, and multiple polls have shown a slight tightening, but all of it in this case is within the margin of error. Sometimes the tightening pre-debate is actually more than the margin of error, so there's nothing much to complain about. On the CBC poll tracker, again, the Liberals and Conservatives went up or down. This time it was up by the same amount, so no increase in spread over there. The point 0.5 that the NDP had won the day before, they lost point 0.4 of it the next day. So, it goes back and forth.
Hmm.
One poll with Main Street, actually, that was kind of funny, that came out 2 or 3 days ago, that showed that the Conservatives had taken the lead. And then all of a sudden, all the "do you believe the polls" people were like sniffing this one and going out and going, "The polls show, I can't see it. We told you the polls were wrong. There's this one." So, now you believe the poll,
Yeah.
singular.
Yeah.
The poll. And then, then Main Street came out and said, well, that conservative lead was gone and now they were tied again. So now they don't believe the polls again. Again, don't let one poll from one pollster in this particular period sway you. Look at the overall trend lines and look at aggregators. There are 2, 3, 4 of them like this. You can even compare aggregators, right? If you want to get an even bigger sense. But according to the CBC poll tracker, we're looking at 198 seats for the Liberals, so they've gained a bit. 121 for the Conservatives, 18 for the Bloc. They've lost 2 since the day before. 5 for the New Democrats, and 1 for the Greens on that one. Again, not much change, with the Liberals having an 87% chance of forming a majority government, and chances for the Conservatives going up by 1% of anything. So 2% of chance of Conservatives winning the most seats, none for majority government. 0 chance so far, according to this. But hey, that's looking up, because yesterday it was 1% chance
Hmm.
of forming a minority. So hey, keep hope alive, I guess.
Well,
According
and
to
this for some comments here, like stupid polls shouldn't even be public during an election. You know how I feel. Once the writ is drawn, I think there should be no polls released to the public. We don't believe the polls, vote anyway.
yeah, that's why we keep on telling you, polls are not comfort; they are fuel. If
Look,
they're
who led
going your way, they should be motivation for you to get out and make sure they happen. If they're not going your way, they should be motivation for you to go out and make a change.
who
You.
led in the last 3 federal elections for the most part, and who won, right?
Yep.
Last 3 federal elections, the Conservatives were leading in the polls. The
Yep.
Liberals won.
Yep.
So,
Leads changed.
yeah, don't take it as gospel.
Right. And you have to understand that, again, it's not that the bottom is falling out of conservative support, right?
Yeah.
They're polling high. They might lose this election with one of the highest vote shares
Mm.
in Canadian history. So it's not that people are abandoning that. It's that progressives have decided that Trump is such a threat that they, instead of fighting each other, they've decided to band together in some way. That's what's going on. So uh, support for both parties, the locked-in vote is pretty solid. I think like over 70% of conservatives now are saying that their vote is locked in. Over 60% of liberals are saying that their vote is locked in. But there's still a certain percentage that are still not sure. A lot of them are waiting to see the debates, and there are others that are just unsure. because look at the times,
Hmm.
right? There's some people that are just unsure. Um, that's vote that can move or can swing in the last couple of days, right? And the support is a little softer for the liberals than it is for the conservatives. The conservatives that are in are like really all in. They're hardcore,
Oh, yes.
right? So don't. This is really one that you should not take for granted, even though you've got people like Aaron Grenier saying you would need like a 10-point swing because to make up for full inefficiency and that type of stuff as well, for the conservatives to have a chance of getting anything. Uh, do not listen to that. That's a nice little note of trivia, like this, but you go, you go vote, right?
It's
According,
important.
yes, and it's important for two reasons, right? It's not. It's only it's important so that you get the result that hopefully will be best for the country, but also a result that will send a signal
Hmm.
to the guy south of us. That's why we need higher voter participation, and that's why hopefully we need a very very clear mandate. Whether it's majority, whether it's minority, whatever, like this, but the mandate has to be very very clear. All right, and of course, typically one would view a majority, and the bigger the majority, a clearer vote. Um, but in the case that we don't, very, very high voter turnout definitely will let
Hmm.
people. All right. With 338 in terms of the vote projection here, we've got 44 for liberals, 38 for the conservatives. So in this one, the gap spread a little bit by 1%. The NDP at 9, the Bloc at 6, and I think the Greens at 2 and the People's Party at 1. Not much changes in the seats, though. It's still 191 to 124 for the Liberals. And when you're looking at all four aggregators yesterday, everything was in between like 186 and 201 or 202 or something like that, from the most generous to the most conservative. So still indicating majority government territory for the Liberals at the moment.
I'm still kind of flabbergasted at the fact that Maxime Bernier called his party the People's Party of Canada. I mean, the man's a libertarian, and People's Party kind of sounds like, you know,
North Korea,
DPRK.
China,
Yeah.
and
Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Like,
yeah,
it always struck me as strange.
yep, it is. It's very strange, but I mean, it's right. It's that whole populist movie, right? Call it the people's thing, and
Mhm.
our
Yeah,
movement,
yeah.
grassroots, really trust us. Uh, um, so that's polls. Markets, as we were looking yesterday, was indeed a moderately good day. No huge jumps, but a little bit more positive. And today will be is a big economic day because we're going to get information from the Bank of Canada. I think around like 9:45 or so as to what will be happening with the interest rate over there. Uh, but if we're looking at trading here in Asia Pacific at the moment, mostly a down day at the moment, but moderately 0 to basically 0 to 2%. So nothing too drastic here. In Europe, it's a down day as well. Everything between 0 and 1% at the moment. So that's what we're looking at in terms of trading in pre-market trading for the Americas. Let's see, what do we have here? We have, yeah, implied negative opens all around. Uh, Not much one, but slightly lower for the Dow. It's like not even a tenth of a percent. About 0.8% down for the S&P and 1.5% down for the Nasdaq. So tech stocks still getting hit the hardest so far. We'll see what that translates out through the day. We had a bit of news yesterday with regard to tariffs and all that kind of stuff as well uh, going on. We would talk to you yesterday a little bit about China, um, because Trump has China had put its tariffs against the United States to match the United States one at 124% or something like that, and said that they would not be raising any more. And then Trump raised by another 20% to bring it to 145. China, Chairman Xi is right now on a charm offensive in Southeast Asia, visiting Cambodia and Malaysia, and trying to establish better relations there. There seems to be some global concern that these moves by IQ-47 are slowly but gradually pushing the world right into China's arms. Even in Canada, for example, in the EU, there's been talk of the tariffs that we've put on Chinese EV vehicles, of which not very many are being sold here, if any at all. But we match the United States on that, and there's some discussion between us whether or not we want to still keep going down that path, helping the United States with that, because, well, the market share in our countries is not very big from China at the moment, and because of those, well, we've had counter tariffs, right? There's tariffs on canola and all that kind of stuff from China as a result of the joining. And now there's talk about, well, maybe we should just cut the U.S. loose on that too, right? So China is definitely in the news a lot with regard to what's going on, particularly with this charm offensive. But also, China's economy grew by 5.2% in the Q1, which is above expectations. That's fueled mostly by factories ramping up exports prior to the tariffs being imposed. But again, right now, he's riding on some good news. In Canada, we had a bit of a scare because a Japanese paper called the Nikkei had reported that Honda was considering moving some of their Canadian and Mexican operations to the United States to avoid tariffs. And that
was incorrect.
Yes, that report was denied by the company as well as by the government of Ontario. Federal Minister Anita Anand put out a statement saying, "I just finished a productive meeting with the CEO of Honda Canada, David Jameson. He confirmed that Honda remains fully committed to its operations in Canada and that there are no plans to shift production elsewhere. Canada has the best workers in the world and is a global leader in auto manufacturing. We will continue to work with all auto manufacturers to protect Canadian jobs and to build a strong, resilient auto sector here in Canada." There is discussion of maybe some type of expansion at one particular plant not happening, but two plants elsewhere opening, one of them in the Niagara region. So, but it looks like, at least for now, and of course, with all of these things, we have to say for now, that was indeed a false report. But there's Honda Canada, and then there's overall Honda. And overall Honda, of course, will be looking at rejigging itself in order to deal with these more effectively. And that could have an impact down the road on Honda Canada, right? So all of these statements that you're hearing from business leaders at this time have to be taken with the "at this time."
Mm-hmm.
It seems that along with that, and we're going to come up to the sorry, I thought I'd put the clip there in the notes, but they're not. It's later on. Pierre Poilievre was asked a question in a recent scrum about the latest developments with the ongoing tariff war, and he repeated his assertion that no one's going to be able to control Trump, which is, again, Carney's line. And when he did that, he did something like say, like, I don't have the exact quote, but something like, as we're Trump, we can't control Trump, as Mark Carney is learning. As Mark Carney is learning. So not only is he lifting the line, but now he is putting that line in a context that I thought of it first. I saw it first. And this guy over here, who's supposedly this big central banker, is a Johnny come lately. He's finally learning.
Such a narcissist.
I mean, it takes balls to lift someone's first day line.
Yeah.
And he said it like 4 or 5 times now. He even said tout le monde en parle, right? Because and at tout le monde en parle, he got the benefit of it because when Mark Carney was because he went second and he was mentioning the same thing. He says, "Well, that sounds like Pierre's stuff." No, 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 no. It doesn't. Pierre's stuff sounds like Mark's stuff. This particular thing, especially that line about not being able to control the president, and it's more like as Danielle Smith is learning, right? So, got to watch out for this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, he's still trying to be Mark Carney
Well,
rather than be himself.
he's never had an original thought.
No, no, not at all.
He has slogans that somebody's created for him that he's been spouting like a parrot for the last 3 years, but he has no solutions.
No, indeed. So his view is we need to reverse the liberal policies that Carney advised Trudeau to bring in again, as if every policy that Trudeau brought in was a part of the policy that Carney advised, or Trudeau took 100% of Carney's advice.
His base will eat that up, though.
Of course, absolutely. He did, however, in a surprise little move, concur that Canada should not lift any counter tariffs, as Mr. Carney did not do when we got the initial reprieve.
That's
So,
interesting.
again, lifting a Carney policy.
Hmm.
The same. We're going to get. We got inflation news yesterday. The inflation rate in Canada came in at 2.3%, which was down from the previous month, and it was going against expectations. Economists were expecting that it would climb, but we had cooler than expected price growth, mostly because of a drop in the price of gasoline. That will probably continue because we will have the zeroing out the consumer carbon pricing, which started April 1st in the following months. And that counterbalanced a little bit of rise of costs and tariffs and the full phasing out of the holiday GST break. So with that and the dollar climbing above 72 cents the other day, the Bank of Canada actually does have some room for that cut if they did want to make it today. Economists are pretty much 50-50 now as to whether or not there would be a one or not, because it's not necessarily desperately needed given that times have changed. But prior to this, people were saying that we need to cut fast, and the next one wouldn't hurt. And given that some of the concerns was by having a bigger interest rate spread between Canada and the United States, that would make the dollar go down. But since the dollar has been gaining, given Trump screwed up the bond market, which, contrary to expectations, he thought that the American dollar would go up versus everybody else, it's gone down. So with the Canadian dollar up and with inflation not going up higher than 2.6, there is room for the bank to cut interest rates further and not have the dollar go below 70 cents or go below 69 cents at the moment. So conditions are better to be able to absorb another cut, but do we actually need it at the moment?
Question.
Yeah, so that's what the Bank of Canada is there. So, like I said, normally when we're talking about this, predictions are about like 80% or whatnot. It really is pretty much down the line 50-50, and it's been switching over the past few days as these numbers have been coming in. This was like, one number came in and said, oh, no, that's definitely, okay, we're not going to get one this month. Oh, well, look, inflation came in cooler. Maybe we'll look at one. So but this one really is the first one for a long time that's really 50-50. So it's going to be a surprise. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they will. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that they will, and they might hold off on the next one, at the next meeting. But at the beginning of the year, it was predicted before the Trump tariff stuff started that there would be 4 cuts this year. And at one point when the tariff stuff started, they said, oh, maybe there'll just be one, or maybe they'll even go up. So there is some talk in economic analysis that we might get 2 more cuts this year. That's why they're saying that maybe there might not be one right away, because there's another meeting coming up very soon. So we'll see. what happens with that? Of course, some of this information could indeed come into the debate and start affecting it, right? If Pierre Poilievre was going to say, "Oh, look, inflation is rampant," well, then Mark Carney could go, "No, you see the numbers just went down. The dollar's tanking." Well, no, the dollar. So these things might they might be things that Mark Carney might bring up in a debate at some point.
Right.
Yes, and then there was another gift, if you would like to call it, for Carney. IQ 47 entered the room again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you will notice that after Mark Carney had his first phone call to Donald Trump, there was a sudden new behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep on telling you, when there's new behavior that just comes out of nowhere, you got to pay attention to that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if enough people will, but.
Okay. So, Katie Simpson, and there's a lot of people that are mad at her, particularly on the conservative side, got into the room at the White House to ask a question. She got to ask two because she layered one on the other. And the response, well, let's just say conservatives are mad that she asked the question in the first place because this doesn't help them. Liberals are probably thankful because he's been making himself relatively quiet. And every time he does pop up, it's an opportunity for Mark Carney to put on the prime minister hat and kill a day. So, but we haven't heard from him on 51st State in Canada and governor something for a while. So let's see what happens.
Because we're going to talk about a moment during the White House briefings today that we think is probably going to bring Trump's annexation threats back to the top of Canadians' minds. Yesterday, the CBC's Katie Simpson, you know her, she said on the show that she was seeking more clarity from the U.S. administration on potential changes to its auto tariffs. And today, she put her question right to the White House press secretary, plus an additional question about Trump's rhetoric on Canada. And as she does almost every day these days, Katie Simpson joins us now from Washington with some answers. All right, Katie, you were able to ask the press secretary a question. I want to show this. That's Katie Simpson right there. Just if we can zoom in on this. That's Katie right there in the White House briefing room asking the question. You were able to ask the press secretary two today. What did you learn from all of this?
Yeah, I can't see the photo that you put up there, but those press briefing rooms are pretty packed. And so it's pretty competitive to try to get a question. And so, because everyone, just imagine it, it's a room full of reporters that are, reporting back to, dozens and dozens of journalists, news agencies all around the world. And today I happened to get a couple of questions in. The first question I wanted to ask about was tariffs, because of course, the Canadian economy relies so heavily on trade with the United States. And so I asked about that first. And then sort of a question that has sort of been nagging at Canadians. Some Canadians think, why would I ask a question about annexation when Donald Trump hasn't talked about it? But that's exactly what I wanted to know, is why hasn't he talked about it? Has something changed? Anyway, have a listen. Tariffs first, Canada second, annexation second. Have a listen.
Yesterday, in the Oval Office, President Trump suggested that there could be some help for automakers. I'm wondering what that looks like. Is it tariff relief on the 25% tariffs that are in place right now, or the new tariffs that are coming up in May on auto parts? And a second on Canada, if I may. President Trump's tone when it comes to Canada-U.S. relations, Canadians have noticed it's shifted a bit in the past few weeks. Ever since the election campaign started, he stopped talking about Canada becoming the 51st state, at least publicly. I'm wondering if that's on purpose and why.
I would reject the president's position on Canada has shifted. Perhaps he just hasn't been asked about Canada by questions from this group in the Oval Office, but they see him almost every day. But the president still maintains his position on Canada. The United States has been subsidizing Canada's national defense, and he believes that Canadians would benefit greatly from becoming the 51st state of the United States of America. As for autos and auto parts, I don't have anything to read out for you there, but I think the point the president was making is flexibility, and he has flexibility when it comes to negotiations and talks, but ultimately his goal in his fair trade deals that he is pursuing with many countries around the world is to put the American worker first. And we had automakers and auto workers here at the White House on Liberation Day who believe in this president and his negotiating ability to put them first and to bring those jobs back to the United States of America. And the president's been very clear about that in his conversations with the automakers as well.
So Trump had said in the Oval Office on Monday that he was looking at getting some help to car makers because they need a little bit more time. It was unclear whether he meant that there could be some sort of pause for the tariffs on the auto sector that are in place right now, or whether it would be related to the upcoming tariffs on auto parts, foreign auto parts that are supposed to take effect in May. Any sort of changes or pause or anything could have significant impact on Canadian jobs, Canadian auto plants, that kind of thing. So in terms of what the president said on Monday, there's no further explanation or anything new from the president on that. And then when it comes to, what Donald Trump has said many times in the past, he sort of eased off on that rhetoric. And I wanted to know why. Is it on purpose? Has he changed his mind? Was he irked by Justin Trudeau and only said it to get under Justin Trudeau's skin, or is there something different going on here? So that's why I wanted to know why. Anyway, so that she says that his position is not changed in this moment.
Okay, that's going to be a thunderbolt into this campaign, Katie. But when it comes to the broader trade war, because it changes on the regular, what is the White House saying today?
The White House had a direct message for Beijing today saying the ball is in China.
Okay, we can.
Yeah.
Kind of off topic now.
Yeah.
Not that it's not important, it's just not on topic. And the topic we were discussing was, 51st.
Exactly. So you will notice that another thing that Pierre and IQ 47 have in common is their definition of the word fair.
Yeah.
The Fair Elections Act. Yeah, fair. Pierre passed the Fair Elections Act.
Yeah, it's fair for me, but not for thee.
So you'll notice that if you heard a loud "Father Bucker" somewhere in the distance around 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon or 3 o'clock, that might have been from the conservative camp when that clip made the air. Yeah, that can't be making Pierre, especially on debate.
You know something, I mean this with all sincerity. I genuinely feel bad for Carolyn Leavitt. And I mean this because she's 27 years old. She's going to have to wear this for the rest of her life.
Yep.
Because it's only a matter of time before he dumps her.
Yep. And when she sat there, she would go, well, and notice that she had, oh no, Trump hasn't changed anything on Canada. Well, about the parts, I don't really have any information for you because again, right, like trying to negotiate with Jell-O, right? Nothing's firm, nothing's right? No information really. And, but I think the president was talking about flexibility. As soon as you hear any one of his spokespeople or secretaries or whatnot said, I think, or what the president really meant, you just need to stop listening right there because they have no clue.
No, they don't. I think. No, you don't think because you work for him. If you had a thought in your head, you would have refused the offer. Well, I think this will be great for my career. No, it won't. You're going to wear this for the rest of your freaking life. And guess what? When this is all over, said and done, and someday this will change. Someday he will be removed. Someday people in the United States of America, in both the supporting and opposition parties, will come to their senses and say, this is insane. We are watching him send people to concentration camps in real time right now.
Yep.
It's happening right now. And these are not criminals. These are innocent Americans.
Yep. And they're pretending there's nothing you can do about it.
So when this is all said and done, I don't know how long it's going to take, 4 years, 8 years, 10 years. I don't know. But when it's all said and done, her life effectively is finished. She's going to have to wear this forever because she is a Trump sycophant who will regurgitate his ridiculous talking points. I truly feel bad. She's 27. She's at the start of her life. It's done.
It's done.
You'll never get the stain of this off you, ever. I feel compassion for her. I really do. I don't think she has any clue as to what she's doing to her, the future of her life, and to her. Well, I don't think she has a clue what she's doing in the job, but I don't think she has any clue as to how badly she is harming herself in the future. And I mean that. And I feel sad for her because of that.
Yep.
He brings in young people so that they will just worship at his knee.
Yep.
It's truly sad. And like I said, he's sending people to concentration camps. And if you don't believe me, have you seen the pictures from inside that prison in El Salvador?
Yeah. I mean, you got Trump saying, I can't force the leader of another nation to do anything. And then you got the leader of El Salvador going, well, what am I supposed to do? Smuggle a terrorist back into the United States? I can't do that. It's
He's not
like both of
a
them all of a
terrorist.
sudden are powerless. You're both in the same room together right now. Like, just make it happen. Right? And the judges are not very happy because they ordered him to be returned, and it wasn't. And now they have ordered the administration to list specifically the things they did to try to get him back and the things that they are doing to try to get them back. And, well, that's going to have to satisfy the court. And, of course, it probably won't because they're not doing anything. And then he's going to defy the court again.
Of course he will.
And we're going to see what happens, right? See if the
I
courts
believe,
actually do have any power or not.
I believe a senator has just ventured down to El Salvador to check on the individuals who have been locked up against their will and illegally deported.
Yeah.
You know, it's just
It's way worse already.
Senator Chris Van Hollen.
Being let on.
Yeah, he's just on his. This was posted a couple hours ago at 6 a.m. I'm about to board my flight to El Salvador, where I hope to meet with senior government officials to discuss the return of Kilmer Abrago Garcia. I also hope to see him and check on his condition and remind him that we won't stop fighting until he's home. Yeah.
Oh, why? Nobody needs this. Nobody asked for this. Oh, God. All right. Meanwhile, back at home. La soirée du débat au Canada. The topics for the French language debate have been released, not the questions, the general topics, because that's another thing that's been going on. Well, Carney got the questions already. No. The topics. The areas of general interest where we will ask questions so that you could prepare for these things and not, let's say, tourism policy, because we're not going to be asking about that. So you could focus, but it's not the questions. So the topics for the French language debate tonight are going to be cost of living, energy and climate. Pipelines are probably going to come up there. The trade war, identity and sovereignty, and immigration and foreign affairs. Again, I may have some contents of the pot on my fingers because I made sure to send Yves-Francois Blanchet by social media and the Bloc Québecois the Devoir article about the family member of Pierre remaining in Quebec, potentially, maybe, possibly after they're supposed to. Just maybe they see it. I don't know. Good trouble.
You say
Hey,
so.
nobody's mentioned it so far. Nobody's mentioned it so far. I thought they would be all up on that. Nobody's mentioned it so far. So maybe they didn't see it. So I figured I'd be helpful and send it by their way. Maybe they will. But yes, immigration is going to come up. So we'll see. And there's stuff about that because even though it's not like ridiculous numbers, asylum claims on the U.S. border, Canada-U.S. border coming in from the United States have been going up over the last 2 months in particular. So there are people that are already starting to flee Trump. So the immigration will be a serious topic, will be a serious issue. And there needs to be more from Pierre than slogans here. This is where Pierre can get nailed, if not on the family thing, definitely on his handling of it, if he doesn't have anything more than slogans. Now, if you're in Canada, you've probably heard that the time of the debate got changed. The debate was supposed to be at 8 p.m. tonight. It has been shifted to 6 because, of course, hockey. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not poo-pooing on hockey. Like, I am pissed off that once again Yves-Francois fucking Blanchet gets another debate gift from the gods to help him out. Why? This guy's got to be the luckiest son of a, I don't know why, because I'm not going to insult his mother, but son of a something on the planet. At the time they agreed to the debate, nobody knew or nobody thought that Montreal would be in a do or die situation for the playoffs, must-win game. In fact, Montreal started the season at the bottom. The fact that they're even in contention for a spot right now has been a great surprise. The debate's being held in Montreal, right? About 4 million Quebecois watch, well, 4 million Canadians, sorry, watch the French language debate, which every year. The majority of them probably in Quebec. About 1 million watch a Habs game on any given night. A do or die game probably will be many more. They were both competing. They were both going to be at 8 o'clock. Now, it would seem that how this came about is that there's a journalist from Radio-Canada named Julienne Lapointe who was interviewing Yves-Francois Blanchet and asking him if he would ask for the time of the match to be changed. Because at that time, there was 2 matches left in the regular season for the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are just under the Montreal Canadiens, 1 left for the Canadiens. If the Canadiens lose that match and the Blue Jackets won their 2, the Blue Jackets would get the 8th spot.
That's right. It's in look, if Montreal wants to make the playoffs, they have to win tonight.
Yes.
They have to.
They have to. So, because
if they win, they're in. If they lose, they're gone. Well, right. I shouldn't say they're gone. Columbus needs to win their 2 games. So
exactly. And so at the time they moved the debate, right? If Columbus was playing last night against the Flyers, had they lost, they would have moved the debate for nothing. The Blue Jackets won.
Mm-hmm.
So now this match actually does do or die. And the thing that's important is that the last match of the Blue Jackets is against the lowest ranked team in the division. At the Montreal match is against a team that's higher ranked that's already made the playoffs. So it's a BFD. I get it.
It really is. Yeah, it really is.
Canada hockey gets Quebec, but I get it. But she asked him, and in the interview, he was very resigned. He says, well, there's no point. I mean, the Federal Debate Commission is not going to change the time. And then she reminded him that in 2011, there was a similar situation. And Gilles Duceppe, leader of the Bloc Québecois, went to the Debate Commission and asked for an accommodation, and they got it.
Mm-hmm.
So upon hearing that, well, Blanchet turned around and said, well, hey, I'm going to go ask that too. Once again, somebody last time was Sachi Curl. This time it's Julienne Lapointe. Stop fucking helping him.
No, you know what? I think this is the smart thing to do, though, sir. Moving it to 6 p.m. is a good idea because if you had it on at the same time as the hockey game, nobody in Quebec would be watching.
I understand that.
Like no one would watch. It's as simple as that.
I understand.
Everybody would be watching the hockey game.
I understand. What you have to understand that my entirety of my comment is on how this advantages the Bloc Québecois.
Yeah,
specifically.
They won't form government, so who cares?
But they can. The one thing that makes the difference between a Carney majority and minority can be the debate performance in French. And if the Bloc Québécois gets some wins under their sails because the moderator asks them some type of question, or Pierre Poilievre says something that's extremely insulting to Quebec that he can like go and nail himself onto a cross for the next 2 weeks and then rally everyone, right? But it has to be seen for that to happen. If it happens, things were working against him. It was most likely not going to be seen. And now he gets this gift. So he went, and Jagmeet Singh went, and they said, well, we should really change the time. And nobody else objected, of course, because it's Canada, it's hockey, it's going to look bad. So the time got changed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is the thing, because Blanchet thought himself too clever, and he screwed himself. The Tout le monde en parle, Jagmeet Singh went the week before. Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre went last week at the same time. So you saw them one after the other. Yves-Francois Blanchet is going to go this Sunday. He decided to go this Sunday at the beginning. After early voting has started, and he didn't get the TVA face-à-face thing, all of a sudden, and then the debate was going to be conflicting with a hockey match. All of a sudden, this guy that wanted to get his message out was going to have a very difficult time doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And he gets handed a gift.
Fair enough.
That's the part it's not the fact that we're all going to get to watch hockey and the debate. I have no problem with that. It's not the fact that Quebecers are going to be more informed. I have no problem with that. It's not the fact that French Canadians are going to be more informed. Or everybody in Canada, once they see it in simultaneous translation or whatnot, are going to be more informed. It's the fact that this fucker, just fucker, who I know to be racist because I've had a personal encounter with him, gets another. This is totally 100% personal bias here.
Yeah, obviously.
Okay? But my God, how many gifts does this guy get?
All of them, apparently. I don't, again,
his political career was over before Sachi Curl did that. They were going to have a bad performance. They were going to get a bad result, and he was going to get booted. Saved the party, saved him. Because this election might get him the boot. But it's like, stop handing him opportunities. Just,
dude, you know how the system works. That's not.
I know.
It's not going to happen.
I know. But it's just like, so Yves-Francois Blanchet gets a gift. Jagmeet Singh, however, might have a tough time because apparently, like me, he's under the weather, which might affect debate performance here. Prior to the debates, Pierre Poilievre released a Quebec-specific platform a couple of days ago, it seems, but not his Canadian full-costed platform. The Bloc released its full platform during the second week of the campaign. None of the other parties have released a costed platform prior to the debate. It seems that is now new strategy. Never release the costed platform prior to the debate, therefore you can't be asked on it and then screw yourself because a couple of people have been caught that way. Again, interfering with our right to cast a fully informed vote because the costed platforms should really be out before at least the final debate so that we can debate the actual platforms that are published and whether or not they were costed well. But apparently not. We're not getting that this year. Coming into the debate, of course, we had the tout le monde en parle moment. And in that, there's a couple of things I didn't mention. Both Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre were really upfront about pipelines.
Mm-hmm.
Really upfront. So Pierre's, because conservatives had this thing where under Harper, they would say pipelines in English, but they would say énergie in French. They never said pipelines. They never said oléoduc or gazoduc. So Pierre is like, right, listen, I'm going to be honest right up front. Like pipelines, yes, I want them. We want energy east. Mark Carney and Danielle Smith is misrepresenting this. If you saw our little tweets going out yesterday, Mark Carney specifically said, "Tout le monde en parle." Says, with what's going on in the United States, there is an opportunity because right now Quebecers are buying their gas from their oil and gas from the United States. So an East-West project does create that opportunity. I would like to see it, but of course, I'm not alone in this. I can't unilaterally impose it. And of course, it only goes forward if there is social acceptability. Right? Which is the key phrase to say in Quebec. But there is increased demand in Quebec. There's about 47% of the Quebecois are now okay with it. François Legault seems to be open to it.
Mhm.
Yves-Francois Blanchet isn't, and we know that there's no love lost between François Legault and Yves-Francois Blanchet, because François Legault doesn't believe that there's any reason for Yves-Francois Blanchet or the Bloc to actually exist. We have a sovereign government in Quebec. It's us. We don't need you in Ottawa pretending that you're us. Right? So there's no love lost between them.
You get
Remember, Yves-Francois Blanchet has the easiest job. He just has to take whatever passes unanimously at the Assemblée Nationale and bring it to the federal government and say, when are you going to get on it?
You got the cack and the block. Now, if you say that correctly, it sounds like you're choking. Cack and block.
I got cack blocked.
Cack blocked. Yeah. Well, yeah. Cack blocked. Sorry, I blocked your cack.
Oh God! I almost want to make that the episode of the show, but it wouldn't mean anything to anybody. Cack blocked.
Well, I think a lot of people would get it, but it would probably alienate a few people too.
Yeah. So they were both really upfront about that. And as I mentioned, both accomplished pretty much what they wanted to in that moment. There were some interesting comments, like right at the beginning, when Pierre came on, they were Guy Lepage, the host, was basically joking and says, "So did you ever think you would miss Justin?"
Mhm.
And Pierre Poilievre actually jokingly admitted, "Yeah, I miss him a bit, actually." And he was asked how he's different from Trump, which was a main thing. And then Pierre talked about his origin. Mentioned something, well, first I'm 180 pounds. I'm not sure that making a reference to the guy's weight is pretty cool. But basically, different origins, I'm from more modest means and that type of stuff and all that kind of stuff. And while that is a difference, and some people can extrapolate from that what it means, well, if you came from modest origins and this guy was always born with a golden spoon in his mouth, well then, but in that question, though, it was, how's he different from Trump? And he only talked about his origins. He still can't talk about himself today, present tense. He answered more, how were you different? Or how were your lives different, your upbringings different? But he didn't actually answer, how are you different today from Trump? He asked, one of the things that is happening about Pierre, a lot of people are making the criticism that it really is a one-man show campaign and that nobody knows what his cabinet would look like. Nobody even knows who his minister of finance would be by this time. Should he form government? That's something we should probably know. Trying to relate to Quebec, he made 3 cultural references, one to Kevin Parent, one to La Petite Vie, and one to Lucien Bouchard, of all people. Basically talking about Lucien Bouchard like he was like some type of mentor or whatnot, that he got some advice from him, and basically about his prickly, sort of very aggressive attitude. And it was sort of like, well, you had to fight for everything in your life, so you'll just keep fighting or something like that. Again, not sure how close his relationship with Lucien Bouchard really was.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not that was a mentor thing, but it was like this way to put it in. The point with Kevin Parent, however, was at the beginning he was joking that the only that his wife was there too, but the only reason she was there was not to support him, because she really wanted to meet Kevin Parent. This is a sign that the thing that of which people were worried about Carney, that he would take elements of Quebec and just throw them in, but he didn't really know the story or the details, came into light for Poilievre, because the reason Kevin Parent was on that show is he's been persona non grata since about 2020.
Oh.
It seems, because there was a moment, a Me Too moment in Quebec itself, with its entertainment industry and that type of stuff, and several allegations.
Yes, I remember that.
And
I was actually driving to Montreal when that story was released.
Yes. And like I said, it came up like over several weeks. There were various institutions and stuff. So it had its own specific moment.
I'll
And
be back in a moment.
yeah. And the way it was described eloquently in a newspaper, because when we say The reason he was persona non grata is that there were allegations of sexual impropriety regarding him. And it would seem, like I said, the way it was described, the most family-friendly way, is that Kevin Parent was rumored, or at least called out, or not, for personalizing the drinks, the alcoholic beverages of women he did not know by dipping his boy bits into them. Yeah. I don't know who gets that idea and thinks that that's something that they should do, but it was something apparently he seems to have done. Uh, so again, his interview on that show was particularly tough and grilling, right? So had it been any artist that did not have those types of allegations or something in their background, and they were there, it was his first, I think, major media appearance since 2020, because he was there to promote, I think, the 30th anniversary of one of his seminal albums. But he knew that this was going to come, right? Especially on this show, because they will ask that question on this show. But to say that she really wanted to be here to meet this guy who has allegations of sexual impropriety leveled against him, about which he's going to be asked on the show, maybe is an indication that you didn't read the full brief before you thought, hey, Kevin Parent's going to be there. He's a celebrity. I'm just going to say that my wife is there to see him. That will be a cute moment. You should maybe find out why the guest is there before using them. Yeah. Doesn't do much to help when you add on that to the MGTOW hashtag and biological clock and everything else, talking about size with Laura Stone. So yeah, not really great. One moment that he did have that was pretty good for him is when he was talking about immigration. He said, "Québec est au point de la rupture," is at the breaking point, and he got some agreement, audible agreement from the hosts on that. So he scored some points there. And again, at the end, when he was asked point blank about his wanting to gut CBC, and it ended with an editorial comment from the host that was very, very clear on the importance of the Crown Corporation. Carney, when he was on, like I said, we mentioned it before, but he did ask the things I didn't touch upon. He was asked whether or not the focus on economics now means that the environment is no longer an issue. And of course, he said no, because if you've read his book Values, and he pointed to the fact that he was the UN Special Envoy on Climate Action and Finance. So that was there. And of course, as I mentioned before, he was asked straightforward about Bermuda and offshore tax havens and that type of accounting. And he was able to give an answer that was succinct and that did touch on the key points, even though it wasn't very developed. And it's the same answer he's using in English. A lot of journalists are finding the answer not satisfactory at the moment because I think they want more, right? I think they understand that as chair or vice chair of Brookfield at the time, that he does have fiduciary responsibilities in that he's doing that interest. But in this case, if he's going to be Prime Minister of Canada, then of course, his fiduciary responsibility is to ensure that all the taxes that rightfully should be coming to Canada do so, and that there's less ways to avoid them. And he seemed to indicate that he does understand that. And in other press conferences that I've seen since, he seems to be indicating that he does understand it, although I do not know how full-throated those initiatives will be. Pierre Poilievre, for his part, recently has announced a series of issues with regard to that issue. Again, trying to corner Mark Carney. There's been a lot of talk recently from the Conservatives about crime and ethics. And with regard to ethics, that's pretty interesting. He wants to bring the focus back on that. And for me, that sort of reminds me once again of the fact that he seems to be lacking in original ideas. Because if you remember the first iteration of the Conservatives under Harper, after the whole all the scandals with the Liberal government, the Gobber inquiry, and all the other various types of scandals at that time, had run on ethics, and their big thing was an accountability act, right? They were going to present the Accountability Act. It was going to be this big thing. And little did we know at the time that while they were talking about the Accountability Act, they were involved in this whole, and ethics, they were involved in this whole in and out scheme in that first election where they were doing funny transactions between local accounts and national accounts for the party so that they could spend more on advertising, over $1 million more on advertising than they were legally allowed to. And then, of course, claimed the rebates from Elections Canada for election expenses based on that advertising they were not allowed to do in the first place. And then for up until 2011, they used our money as taxpayers to defend themselves in court, swearing up and down and all around that they had never done that. And then right prior to the 2011 election, given that they didn't want that to be an election issue, quietly pleaded guilty in court. Now, I have to make it clear here that it wasn't a person that pleaded guilty. It was the party itself. The Conservative Party of Canada pleaded guilty in court in 2011 to having cheated in the first election it won. And they needed to do that to keep 4 people out of jail, 2 party operatives, and 2 senators, specifically. All right? So I just want it to be clear that as this party was running on clutching pearls, right? While clutching pearls on ethics because of what the Liberal government, previous Liberal government had done, they were cheating at that time. As they were complaining and as they were running on ethics and presenting themselves as virtuous, they were cheating, literally breaking the law as a party. They have no leg to stand on this issue. Then the current leader of this party has a deferred prosecution agreement with Elections Canada because he cheated as well. And this party had Dean Del Mastro, who was a cabinet minister, go to jail, also for election expenses. Shenanigans. And he is Conservatives. The Conservative Party of Canada is also the first party in all of the Commonwealth to be held in contempt of Parliament. If we're talking ethics here, right, the Conservative Party is not really the one to be looking at here as the gold standards. The last government, the one that we had, Trudeau's government, for all the complaints about Conservatives, about ethics and scandals and whatnot, and there were scandals and scandalettes, because every government has them. None of them reached the point of an open investigation, charges being laid, trials, and convictions. None. This was, for all intents and purposes, even though you got the scandals, and remember the ethics law did not exist before Harper. Despite whatever scandals you may or may not believe that were there under the current government, not the current government, the Trudeau government, that government was the cleanest in my lifetime. I should say, living memory of my lifetime. Mulroney was the first government I remembered. We had Airbus. Then there was Chrétien Martin, and there was Gomery, there was Shawinagate, and the ad scam. And then we get Harper. We had literally a cabinet minister went to jail. Literally, the party pleaded guilty. Literally, the current leader has a deferred prosecution agreement. I mean, not exactly the most ethical. And then we have this current government, which, yes, there were scandals and there were slaps on the wrist for the ethics commissioner and whatnot, but not a single charge laid. So, yeah, Pierre Poilievre, a few days ago, decided that he was going to come out and preach ethics.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. The party with no ethics is going to tell us about ethics.
I just, oh my God. And now, another thing happened, and this one sent a bit of a chill down my spine, Mr. Grizzly. Not only are they talking about ethics, but they are talking about crime. And we will get there, but I want you to put a pin in that.
Which
you know what?
Clip?
Let's go there right away. In the section B where it says Melissa Landsman, liberal crime.
Just a second. Section B, Melissa Landsman, liberal crime. I don't have I have le devoir. Le devoir.
It's lower. You got to go down in the notes. It's at the end of the section.
Yeah, I've got nothing there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like it's literally not there. There's the only link in that section is for the Le Devoir article. That's it. And then it moves on to Block C, Pierre's problems.
Yes.
Okay,
Go down to Block C, Pierre's problems.
You said Block B. That's why I was confused.
Sorry.
That's okay. Bad. That's all right. It happens.
Yeah. Melissa Landsman, liberal crime. It's the last thing before it says CBC.
Okay, let me just make sure I have the right clip here.
Melissa Landsman was on CTV Power Play.
Okay, there we go. I got it.
To let you know. And they were asking about stuff. And Vashi Cabela's asked her a question straight up. And I want you to listen to her answer because there's a branding exercise going on here that really, really sent a chill up and down my spine. And this is with regard to your pause.
Hi there, and welcome to Power Play. I'm Vashi Kapelos in Ottawa. Tonight, 3 weeks down, 2 to go.
A new approach to made-in-Canada defense procurement.
Oh, sorry.
In the biggest crime crackdown in Canadian history.
My bad.
Want someone that's going
I had it queued up at the wrong spot. I apologize.
That's okay.
Oversight on my part. I read the clip wrong. Yeah, okay. I got it there. Okay, now I've got it queued up. Sorry, I had to fix a few things here in the background, and that kind of threw me off, so I wasn't quite caught up. Here we go.
The Conservative leader says if elected, his government would use the notwithstanding clause to restore consecutive life sentences for people convicted of multiple murders. In 2022, the Supreme Court ruled that imposing consecutive sentences violated charter rights. The Conservatives are not the only party, however, pledging tough on crime policies. Here to debate their approach to public safety is three of those candidates. Yasir Naqvi, is the Liberal candidate for Ottawa Centre in Ontario. Melissa Landsman is the Conservative candidate for Thornhill in Ontario. And Alistair McGregor is the NDP candidate for Cowichan, Malahat, Langford in BC. Hello to all three of you. Thank you very much for making the time tonight. I appreciate it. I'll start off, Ms. Landsman, with you because your party made the announcement on crime today. And I wanted to ask you about the decision to invoke the notwithstanding clause. It's serious if you invoke it to pass a law. It means to do so you're willing essentially to suppress a right as granted by the Charter. Can you be unequivocal that this and only this type of a law would be the only thing you use that for?
Well, I don't think I need to be unequivocal because the leader was unequivocal today.
Crime,
he says that we will use the notwithstanding clause to end the decade of out-of-control crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder in our streets. And on this, I think you have to be insane to not believe that somebody who, in this case, killed 6 people while worshiping in a mosque is potentially out in 25 years. Not only does that re-victimize the families who have to have to sit through potential parole hearings, but this means that he's getting, about 4.5 years or 4 and a bit for each of those murders. You can't get a bulk discount when you kill multiple people, and those people should be behind jail for life. And life should mean life, and judges should be able to give those consecutive sentences. And that's exactly what we'll do. We'll use the notwithstanding clause for this.
Just for this, to be sure, not for other things related to crime?
Well,
just this
on
one law?
On this issue, most certainly. And we will use the notwithstanding clause on liberal crime.
But
liberal-driven crime in this country. But there is nobody that believes that they are safer after 10 years in the streets. We've had gun crime go up by 160%. We've had violent crime, gang-related crime go up by 50%. We've had hate crimes in this country rise by 250%. And each and every person feels like they have been victimized in their own neighborhoods, on their own streets, in their own homes, taking public transit. So we will use the notwithstanding clause on this and on to fight liberal crime that they've unleashed into this country.
With great respect, that's two different things. And I'm not trying to take away from the criticism, and we'll ask your colleague about the record of the last 10 years on crime.
Well, he doesn't want to talk about the record of the last 10 years.
Just let me finish. There's a big, just saying, this one law and invoking the notwithstanding clause.
I love how Vassie's like, I'm not putting up with your bullshit.
So, Melissa Landsman just saunters in. Says a lot of words. Mm-hmm. Is it going to be unequivocally for this? I don't have to be unequivocal because our leader was unequivocal, and then she turns out to be as clear as mud. Right? It's not applying to just this. It's applying to everything. And did you hear the term she used? And this is one thing you got to keep on noticing. It seems every time, it's frequently when Pierre Poilievre or her specifically make an attack, they always seem to choke on the attack.
Mm-hmm.
They can't seem to get the attack out without choking on it somehow because they know it's a lie. Did you hear the branding? We're going to use the notwithstanding clause on liberal crime.
Yeah.
The party that pleaded guilty in court to cheat in an election, the party led by a guy that has a different prosecution agreement, the party that had a cabinet minister go to jail wants to use the notwithstanding clause on liberal crime. Liberal crime. All those things that she mentioned, those are hate crimes that got up 280%. Since when and how long compared to what? Of course, no doubt just 200%. Throw a number out there. Those are liberal crimes.
Well, let's take a look at the crimes for a second. Let's take a look at the liberal crimes here for a second, as she says. I want you to watch this because Steve Boots is going to refute that in real time.
We will bring safety to our streets. By the way, I gather that Mark Carney is now talking about crime. This after Liberals unleashed a massive crime spree in our country with the
massive crime spree. Massive crime spree. Massive crime spree.
Look at that graph.
Anybody see a massive crime spree there? Anybody?
So it's just more garbage and lies from the conservatives.
Yep. But it's liberal crime.
Liberal. It's like, lady, fuck is wrong with you? Seriously.
The party with criminality literally in its DNA wants you to be afraid of liberal crime, not crimes created by the Liberal Party, but just the crimes that you don't like. She wants you to think of them as liberal crimes, liberal-led crimes.
We'll go over that again.
Of a law would be the only thing you use that for?
Well, I don't think I need to be unequivocal because the leader was unequivocal today.
Crime,
he says that we will use the notwithstanding clause to end the decade of out-of-control crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder in our streets. And on this, I think you have to be insane to not believe that somebody who, in this case, killed 6 people while worshiping in a mosque is potentially out in 25 years. Not only does that re-victimize the families who have to have to sit through potential parole hearings, but this means that he's getting, about 4.5 years or 4 and a bit for each of those murders. You can't get a bulk discount when you kill multiple people, and those people should be behind jail for life. And life should mean life, and judges should be able to give those consecutive sentences. And that's exactly what we'll do. We'll use the notwithstanding clause for this.
Just for this, to be sure, not for other things related to crime?
Well,
just this
on
one
this,
law?
on this issue, most certainly. And we will use the notwithstanding clause on liberal crime.
Choking on it.
Liberal crime. Hey, Melissa Lantzman, fuck you. Seriously, fuck you. What the hell is wrong with you? You're going to strip Canadians' rights away because you don't like the liberal crime. Yes, those crimes were committed by liberals. Yes, I'm sure it's in the liberal ideology to shoot up a mosque. That tends to be more on the right end of the spectrum, doesn't it? So fuck you, Melissa Lantzman.
Right. And of course, we're supposed to believe that the party that's all in for Israel and that wants to deport people in Canada who happen to protest in favor of Palestine cares about Muslims. All of a sudden, cares about Muslim families, right? Life should mean life. Find me one person, multiple murderer in Canadian history who's been sentenced to 25 years who got that parole and was released after 25. Because she presents it as, right, she divides 25 by 6 and says you should get 4 years per person, get a bulk discount. That's a very effective populist argument. But the problem is, the reason you get 25 with a chance of parole is because, again, in our justice system, we believe that people are redeemable, and we give them a chance to prove it. We don't throw them in and say the only way you're coming out is in a box. We don't do that. And it doesn't matter how vile or awful you are. You are a human. You get that consideration.
Believe it or not.
That's the principle behind it.
Yeah.
Yes. It's the principle behind it. The principle that people are reformable, that we don't give up on people. It's not a bulk discount. It's not shoot 3, get 3 free.
Look, my disdain for her is runs long and deep, and with that, it goes much further now. I physically hate that woman. I physically hate her. Like, she's framing this, the way she's framing it.
Yep.
And again, I belong to no political party. I never have, and I never will. I'm not a liberal. I'm not a conservative. I don't belong to the Green or the NDP. I vote for the best candidate in my riding who will do the most for my community.
But
who I vote for is my business. I don't tell that to anybody ever.
But this is not on.
This is bullshit. The hell is wrong with her?
Sold her soul.
Oh my God. I'm sure the rainbow community is like, you're out. You're out.
So let's continue a little bit because she says another thing in the next couple of minutes here that's a little
But liberal-driven crime in this country. But there is
Liberal-driven
nobody
crime.
that believes that they are safer after 10 years in the streets. We've had gun crime go up.
See, that's a dog whistle.
Yep.
It's a dog whistle. And you'll have people who won't pay attention to what she said, and it will register with them. Oh yeah, the liberals are doing that. And again, let's go back over here and have a look. The statement from Steve Boots about how showing point blank, showing the graph in real time.
Talk about house arrest for a moment. Why do we do house arrest? Do you know why? Because incarcerating people is insanely expensive. Do you know what's a lot cheaper? Leaving them in their homes where they can be monitored and are responsible for their own food, their water, their hygiene, all that stuff. They take care of all that instead of needing to have institutional solutions for it. You don't need to provide bathrooms and showers and food and support and all this stuff. You just put them on house arrest. But more than that, a reminder, somebody on house arrest is there because they have not been, in most cases, someone is on house arrest because they have not been committed a crime or convicted of a crime. They are awaiting trial. And so if you want the government to be able to lock people up without trial as they please, then you and I have very different ideas of the powers that a government should have. Like, if you are a supporter of this, do you want the government to be able to lock you up indefinitely without trial? I don't.
Brought in. Mr. Carney said yesterday when he was asked about my 3 strikes you're out policy, he said, well, he thinks that he doesn't like the baseball analogy, but he does think that criminals should face the full force of the law. The problem is the liberal laws have no force. And that's the reason why we have so much crime. Liberal laws allow the offenders to be out 60 or 70 times in a row. Don't be fooled by whatever Mike Carney promises today. He had the public safety minister who allowed Paul Bernardo out of a maximum security penitentiary.
He didn't. I think Steve was probably going to make the same one. The public safety minister doesn't make that decision.
Sorry, I hit the button by accident. I didn't mean to kill that. I'll go back to that for a second.
No. Okay.
You want the minister to be weighing in on the treatment of individual convicts.
Is now Mark Carney's Liberal chief of staff. David Lametti, the Liberal justice minister who kept in catch and release bail and house arrest for rampant offenders, is now a paid advisor of Mark Carney. This electing the same Liberals for a 4th time is not going to change what they do on crime. If you want a real change on crime, what you need is a new government, a conservative government that will lock up criminals with a 3 strikes you're out law, bring jail and not bail, ban the hard drugs, close the drug dens, give 50,000 deserving people the treatment and recovery they deserve. What we need is a new government with a real change to bring home the Canadian.
I can't take any more of his shit. I'm sorry. It just. We'll go back to Melissa here. My apologies. I just have to share that we keep losing Mr. Beaver for some reason. I'm not sure why.
By 160%. We've had violent crime, gang-related crime go up by 50%. We've had hate crimes in this country rise by 250%. And each and every person feels like they have been victimized in their own neighborhoods, on their own streets, in their own homes, taking public transit. So we will use the notwithstanding clause on this and on to fight liberal crime that they've unleashed into this country.
With great respect, that's 2 different things. And I'm not trying to take away from the criticism, and we'll ask your colleague vague about the record of the last 10 years on crime.
Well, he doesn't want to talk about the record of the last 10 years.
Just let me finish. There's a big, just saying, this one law and invoking the notwithstanding clause, which again does suppress a right. The use of it does suppress a right as granted by the Charter.
The use of it actually protects the rights of Canadians. It protects.
So is it doing that in Bill 96 or Bill 21
it certainly
in Quebec?
Protects the rights of those who have been victimized by crime. It protects every single Canadian. It protects them from things like Bill C-75, which has allowed repeat violent offenders out on the streets. It protects people from Bill C-5, which took away mandatory minimums for the most violent offenses. Those are the things that we are going to reverse in Liberal policy. We're going to take those bills right off of the table. This was a choice by the Liberals to put these bills through. It was a choice to be soft on crime, and I think we want to do the exact opposite.
And again, I'm not trying to take away from that criticism, but a couple of things that you said there. For example, when you talk about Bill C-75, that was in response at the time to a court decision that was referencing overrepresentation of minorities in the jail system. And even the use of the notwithstanding clause is in response to a decision from the Supreme Court. Should Canadians take from your posture on this and your willingness to invoke the notwithstanding clause that a Conservative government would not have any deference for court rulings?
We will make sure that repeat violent offenders and those mass murderers in this case, people who have killed.
Okay, hang on here. So Melissa Lantsman's not going to actually respond correctly to Vassy. She's just going to use more talking points and spew more bullshit. Vassy literally verbally punched her in the face.
Right.
For lying.
Right.
And omitting. Lies of omission.
Right.
And now she's going to continue to regurgitate more garbage.
Yes. You'll notice.
I don't always love Vassy, but when she is on, man, is she on.
Yeah. Now, you will notice that as Melissa Lantsman keeps on bulldozing her way through this interview, trying to talk over Vassy and report, yes, Vassy asked her about, what about Bills 21 and 96 in Quebec? She goes, we'll protect them against crime. And then she went to C-75. She bypassed 21 and 96 completely because 21 and 96 have nothing to do with crime.
Yeah. In
Quebec, right? So, and then C-75, what she's talking about, as Vassy Capella says, yeah, but courts ordered that. And again, right, she's coming back, right? We're definitely going to use the notwithstanding clause on those multiple murderers and all that kind of stuff, even though not one in Canadian history has ever been released.
Ever.
I guess, and again, but remember earlier she said, but also on liberal crime.
Yeah.
So she's going back to making it look like she's only going to use it in the worst cases, again, trying to dissimulate that. Again, she always goes to the worst case scenario. The thing that everybody needs, the monster under your bed that everybody's afraid of. Like this, but forgets that the law applies to everyone. Everyone.
That's it, though, sir. They want you to be afraid of the hidden boogeyman, the monster under the bed. They want you to fear that. They absolutely want you to fear that. Because then they have power over you.
Yep.
I've never met. Let me rephrase that. I've never seen a more duplicitous group of liars in politics in this country in my life.
They're wrapping themselves in ethics and anti-crime. And look at them. And again, like, don't even look at the federal Conservatives. Right now in Canada, we are having a moment where two ideologically conservative governments, provincial, subnational governments, have open RCMP investigations. If there is one political movement in this country that is associated with crime, it is the conservative one.
Oh, yeah.
Hands down. Right now, two conservative governments have open RCMP investigations into them. But they want you to be afraid of liberal crime. Caused by people who are maybe in desperate situations. But they don't want you to be concerned about political collar crime from the actual Conservative Party or the Conservative movement. There's no 3 strikes and you're out for that.
Look over there. Over there. Don't look over here. Look over there. Not here. Over there.
God. And again, those 50,000 treatment spaces, how much do you want to bet that they're going to be reserved for people who get caught doing crack and cocaine at the bathroom at the Royal York rather than a back alley?
Well, and let's not forget about what's happening in Alberta. how they just revoke charter rights because they're going to send people involuntarily to treatment centers.
Yep. That'll work.
Well, I read the CBC article at about 5 a.m., just as I was falling asleep. I didn't read through the whole thing because my phone hit me in the face. I was like, oh, put it down, went to sleep, woke up at 6. The way they worded it makes it sound like it's sensitive and caring.
Yeah.
But then you read a little bit further and you realize, oh, no.
Yeah.
This is not good.
Yep. Just like
they're going to deem who's undesirable in society and lock you up against your will.
Yep. Just like
having a disease.
Yep. Just like she did with that 7-minute video to the trans kids.
Yeah.
We love you. We care for you. We're like this. But if you need anything for your health, fuck you. And if your parents decide you that, well, fuck them too.
Well, I mean, I got this video from Nate. I don't know if you've seen it. I know I'm going a little off topic here, but I want to share this with you before I have to run because I am running late. But you've got to see this. This is it's more conservatives trying to rob you of your rights. Is what it is.
I'm just thinking about the ethical considerations of this. If you're looking at a different scenario where there's a religious family with a child who they're going to refuse a blood transfusion to save a life, for treatment of cancer or something like that, would you be willing to force somebody in that scenario into forced treatment because it would save their life? And if not, how is the scenario different?
Well, the courts have determined that a mature minor can make that decision, I believe, at the age of 15 or 16. So,
did you hear what you just said?
She's choking on it again.
No, but listen to what she's saying.
Yep.
Pay attention, and then I'll stop it, and I've got my comment.
A mature minor can make that decision, I believe, at the age of 15 or 16.
But they can't receive gender-affirming care at that age.
Doctor prescribed.
Right.
Yep.
The level of hypocrisy with this woman.
Nothing is connected to anything else. Everything is in a vacuum, isolated from everything else.
Yes.
I think that there's some jurisprudence around the instance of an individual when they get an opportunity to make the choice to end their life. This is not to end life. This is to sustain life. We're taking a choice that will make sure that people aren't down a pathway of ultimately dying on the street or in terrible circumstances. And we think it's worth giving it a try.
You do not get gender-affirming care because you're not adult enough. But the court has ruled that you can go for a blood transfusion because you're 15 or 16, even though your parents are religious and your religion doesn't allow for a blood transfusion. But because you're 15 or 16, you're allowed to make that adult decision. But gender-affirming care, you're not allowed to do.
Which would sustain life.
Yeah, which saves lives.
Because that was the whole point of the last answer, right? Well, we're doing this to save lives.
Well, then, save lives.
The blood transfusion is also to change lives.
Yeah.
Save lives. Ideologically inconsistent across the board.
Just before I go, one more thing. I don't have a clip here. It's just, did you know that Ontario's provincial parliament's throne speech was yesterday?
Yes, it was. And we have the first, she was making history and I can't remember why now. Oh, this first female speaker of the House.
Well, in the speech yesterday, and I'm reading this from Chris Glover, who is a member of the NDP for the province of Ontario. In the speech from the throne, Ford called public health care a defunct ideology.
God. Oh, Ontario, what have you done?
A defunct ideology. How soon before we have wellness centers in Loblaws and superstores? They already have. They already have pharmacies and medical clinics.
Yes.
Next, they'll have wellness treatment centers for addictions. Soon they'll have surgery centers.
Yeah.
We're being sold down the road, folks.
Yeah.
The Premier of the province of Ontario said public health care is a defunct ideology.
Yeah, I know.
I thought you would use your OHIP card and never your credit card. Isn't that what he said?
That's what he said. That thing until they get to the point where they remove it.
Okay, I really have to go. I got a very anxious puppy dog here, and then I got to meet somebody shortly. So thanks for coming out, everybody. Sorry I have to run, and sorry I had to take a few minutes away to take care of something here. But, life gets in the way sometimes, My words of wisdom today, be kind to and gentle with yourself. I'm stealing them from you, sir.
All right, sir. Absolutely. Thanks. All right. So, a couple of other things. Unfortunately, I won't be able to have the visuals for you, but that won't stop anything here. With regard to the debate tonight, Podiev also has a couple of other problems on the campaign. He's not going in there with a lot of momentum. Former minister in the Conservative government, Ed Fast, endorsed Michael de Jong, the independent candidate in Abbotsford and Langley South. Now, Abbotsford and Langley South is a district that has been redrawn, but it is a district in Canada that is probably the most reliably conservative outside of Saskatchewan. It is now a three-way race because the Conservative Party decided that it was not going to approve the nomination of Mike de Jong for no reason, and he decided to run as an independent. I believe he is a former cabinet minister into the BC government. And I apologize, kids and cubs. I'm going to duck off camera for a second because my nose is dripping, and I want to do this gracefully. I will be right back. There we go. And I also turned off the sound so you didn't hear me blow. So that is not very good. As well, it would seem, kits and cubs, that there is a group of people who wear boots who decided that they were going to support the suit. So for all of Pierre's attempts to to get some blue collar union vote, and I mean he is getting some. He's not scoring across the board. So yesterday, I believe it was a carpenters association, if I'm not mistaken, that came out. Yes, the Carpenters Regional Council gave their endorsement. It's a group called UBC Built. Gave their endorsement to Mark Carney yesterday. So that was a bit of an interesting development as well for the Conservatives. Let's see, what else have I got for you here? Sorry, I'm going back and forth between devices to get the information to you here since I don't have Mr. Grizzly. Then, if anybody remembers former Ontario Progressive Conservative leader Tim Hudak, he ran an election campaign that he lost. And one of the reasons he lost is because somewhere along the way, he bragged about, hey, this would be a good time to cut a big number of public servants, as they were promising to create, I think, 1 million jobs or something like that. They wanted to cut like 100,000 or something like that. Public servant, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but a big number. And, well, that didn't go over very well. Well, yesterday, Pierre Poilievre got some help, between Skippy air quotes, from Ian Brody, who, if that name rings a bell, it should, because it was Stephen Harper's former chief of staff. And in the Ottawa Citizen, it says, Stephen Harper's former chief of staff says a Poilievre government could move, quote, quickly to cut the public service. For a guy who's looking for votes in Ontario, particularly the Ottawa region. Way to go, buddy. Way to help your guy. If Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives win the federal election, they could move at lightning speed to shrink the size of the public service. That's according to Ian Brodie, a former chief of staff of Prime Minister Stephen Harper, who believes the most surefire way to usher in deregulation in Canada, main priority for Poilievre, is to reduce the headcount of the public service, and fast. Quote, once you deprive the public service of the people to create policies, guidelines, and regulations, and letters, and contract documents, and so on and so forth, the burden on society is reduced, Brodie told an audience at the Canada Strong and Free Network's annual conference in downtown Ottawa on April 11th. It also reduces citizen protections and makes it a whole lot more difficult for any of us to actually access services. Yeah, or get procurement done, too, Mr. Brodie. For Brodie, time is of the essence to reduce the federal budget. If elected, he said the Conservatives should move quickly to downsize the Privy Council office and give minister mandates to cut down department workforces. The good thing compared to the United States is that for all sorts of constitutional legal reasons, the impediments to DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, moving quickly, we don't really have to worry about it in Canada, Brodie said at the Conservative conference. Canada can move as quickly as it wants in fixing the fiscal problems. Wow. It's been the approach for American and Argentinian right-wing governments that have sought to reduce public spending and regulation by trying to eradicate whole government agencies and departments. The administration of U.S. President Donald Trump has laid off hundreds of thousands of government employees in recent months. And that has gone over super well. Poilievre's Conservatives has said they will reduce the size of the public service through attrition, which would shed 17,000 jobs a year. The size of the public service has swelled to 367,772 workers in 2024 from 257,034 in 2015. Of course, the population of Canada has grown by over 1 million people in that time, and we need people to provide services. Kind of matters, right? As the population grows, you need more people to provide services to them. When reached for comment, Sam Lilly, a spokesperson for Poilievre's campaign, said that not backfilling, quote, lower priority vacant positions while ensuring priority positions in key areas are filled is one of the available strategies the Conservative government can use. Quote, not only that, but the Liberals massively expanded the use of external contractors and consultants, spending $20 billion every year for work that could be done internally, Lilly said in an email in a statement. But if you want to bring that work in to be done internally, then you need the staff to do it. Right? The messages don't make sense when you listen to them all together. They say everything and their opposite. We will rein in the waste and ensure Canadian taxpayers receive value from their public service. Conventional wisdom would hold that the deepest cuts the government make would come early in the mandate, but a possible looming recession caused by the global trade war could change that dynamic. Donald Savoy, a longtime scholar of the public service, told the Ottawa Citizen previously that any new government will have to wait until Trump's tariffs are settled before launching any systemic cuts to the public service. Conservatives won't care about that. Poilievre's opponent, Liberal leader Mark Carney, has said he intends to cap the public service. He has said his reductions would come through efficiencies in artificial intelligence, using similar language to UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who is looking to reduce the British public service by thousands. Carney has also said he would split the federal budget between capital and operating spending. For capital spending, such as investments in Canadian infrastructure, Carney intends to run a small deficit. However, Carney has vowed the balance to operating budget in 3 years, likely meaning significant cuts to the public service over that time period. When the Ottawa Citizen reached out to the Liberal campaign to ask for more details on how such cuts could take shape, they pointed to Carney's economic pillars that outline a plan to slow the growth of government spending, cap the size of the public service, and use technology such as AI to reduce inefficiencies. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh has said that he opposes any cuts to the public service, pointing to Trump's tariffs as a reason for more, not less, public sector jobs. So there you go. So talking about crime, talking about firing people so that, again, a government that wants to boost the economy and says that wants to make life better for you, running on, hey, look at how many jobs we can cut in the public service. Contradictory messages being sent. Then, finally, big news yesterday as well. As you know, the Conservatives are making a lot of hay about Brookfield asset management and Carney's time there and things that Brookfield has done, like, for example, used taxation structures going through foreign countries or getting a loan from China. And of course, moving the headquarters of a small subsidiary of the company to the United States to meet its appropriate fiscal duty so it could be listed on U.S. stock indices as the law over there requires. But apparently those are all bad things. Terrible, terrible. Brookfield's a terrible company. Mark Carney is a terrible person for having been involved with it in any shape or form. And then we found out that Pierre Poilievre and some of his holdings had a general ETF that had some Brookfield holdings. Now, when that happened, people made a big deal out of it. We said, and this was one of the times, right, where we might have surprised some people, saying that we should be fair because, well, Brookfield is about 10% of the TSX, and it's kind of hard to be involved in any Canadian ETF that wouldn't have some Brookfield. But in this case, there are 6 conservative MPs and some of their spouses who not only have like a general ETF that has some Brookfield, but have actually bought specific Brookfield shares. They actually own them and have them. They own them and they have them. So, according to conservatives, or at least these 6, but let's say conservatives, Mark Carney was so terrible at his jobs, plural, at the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England, that when he was co-chair and then chair of Brookfield, conservatives personally invested in the company. What a vote of confidence, right? Now, you may be wondering, who are these 6 people who think Brookfield is terrible, 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 but not so terrible that they don't own personal shares in Brookfield? Well, one would be Conservative Party of Canada MP Scott Reid. Another one would be Cheryl Gallant, one of the original Reform Party people. Then you have Greg McLean, you have Stephen Ellis, you have Scott Davidson, and last but not least, Melissa Lantsman. Again. And apparently her spouse too. And of all people, her in particular, Melissa Lantsman, has owns some product that happens to go through Bermuda. As they are criticizing him for it in their disclosures, they own Brookfield. And Melissa Lantsman specifically owns a product that goes through the Bermuda thing, even though they are crying about tax shelters and we're going to shore that up and ethics and all that. Just like when Rhoda Ambrose was on a billionaire's yacht with her very rich boyfriend while they were complaining about the Prime Minister being on the Aga Khan's private island. At least the Aga Khan was an honorary Canadian citizen, as deemed by the Conservatives. But, well, then he got a little Trudeau on him and then they had to throw him overboard. Just like they did David Johnston, by the way. Just like they're doing Mark Carney, by the way. Yes. Again, if the Conservatives are screaming about a Liberal doing it, it's because they've done it, are in the process of doing it, or have plans to do it very soon. It seems to me. So there goes the Brookfield argument. Right? Company was so bad. Carney did such a terrible job, so unethical, that they decided to invest in it personally. It just... You'd think that before making these attacks, Jenny Byrne would have asked all MPs, go through your stuff. And if you own any Brookfield, it might be time to get rid of it. Or How many of you own Brookfield? Oh, that many. Okay, maybe we should go ahead with this attack then. But no. But no. Just swing. And then, hope it sticks and that nobody goes look. So yeah, not great. So all of these issues, all of this bad news keeps on befalling the party, right? The former minister is supporting an independent candidate over the conservative candidate. Elissa Lansman's trying to rebrand crime as liberal crime. They're talking about using the notwithstanding clause on a whole bunch of stuff, but they'll only say one thing specifically. The other one will just be, well, we'll see. They're invested in Brookfield. It's just getting bad to worse for this party. They're talking about cutting jobs. You got unions that wear boots supporting the suit. Pierre's not having a good time. And then in all of that, Katie Simpson asks a question and gets Donald Trump back in on the 51st state thing, just as we're going to a debate. Yeah, if Pierre is feeling a little pressure tonight, I would not be surprised. He's got a lot riding on this, and the news over the next couple of days is not going to be better for him. And if his debate performances are poor, watch the knives. Watch the knives in the last week. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. All right, before we go, kids and cubs. Oh, yes, I did want to bring you something. Sorry. There was an article in Le Devoir as we are leading up to the debates based on the Tout le monde en parle performance. It was written by Olivier Duruisseau. I am going to have to simultaneously translate it for you because it is, of course, in French. As I like to remind you, Le Devoir is the paper of record for the Quebec intelligentsia, particularly on the sovereigntist side. So what they have to say on a matter like this usually grabs the attention and is fairly well disseminated throughout the province. So the article is titled, if I remember correctly here, Marked Contrasts Between Poilievre and Carney at Tout le monde en parle. The two leaders of the principal parties of the federal campaign, the conservative Pierre Poilievre and liberal Marc Carney, participated one after the other on the episode Tout le monde en parle on Sunday night. The questions of the host Guy Lepage, as well as the answers of the invitees, offered contrasting visions of the electoral stakes. While Mr. Poilievre adopted a more ideological view, even what some would say philosophical, on his electoral promises, Mr. Carney was asked about more concrete matters, such as his recourse to tax havens when he was at the head of Brookfield Asset Management, or again, his position with regard to Bills 96 and 21 in Quebec. A contrast had imposed itself right from the get-go. Mr. Poilievre, who intervened first, even though both candidates, this is an aside in here, even though both candidates have never appeared at the same time on the set. Mr. Poilievre was looking to bring up the level of popularity of his political party because the voting intentions have been rather low over the past 2 months, while we were, of course, in January, assuming that he was going to win with a large lead. In fact, according to the projections of the aggregator of Quebec 125, the Conservative Party would only obtain at the moment that of the writing of this article 122 seats against 194 for the Liberal Party. Let's remember that 172 are required to obtain a majority. Mr. Poilievre has even let slip, but not without humor, that he missed Justin Trudeau a little bit, evoking in advance that he was ahead of him in the polls only a few months ago. So it is therefore a Pierre Poilievre who is smiley, who appeared on the popular show, looking openly to rid himself of his Trumpian image and multiplying references to Quebec culture with the goal to please the Francophone public. Quoting a conversation that he had with former Prime Minister Péquiste Lucien Bouchard, he declared, I have been leader of the opposition. Now I am presenting myself as Prime Minister. It's the time to break out hope. Not sure that that's in his wheelhouse. The Conservative leader, nevertheless, spent most of the time of the interview of painting a somber portrait of the heritage of the Trudeau era. Quote, the Quebec is at the point of rupture, had he said, invoking the increase in the number of asylum seekers before deploring after the effects of the housing crisis. His plan in terms of housing advocates that, among other things, that he will suppress or eliminate the HST on the houses, the GST, I should say, on housing purchases of new houses of less than $1.3 billion. Sorry, the sentence was written in a weird way to translate there. Mr. Poilievre has most of all defended himself at the end of the conversation, reminding the audience that he did not want to reduce the financing of the Francophone services provided by Radio-Canada, even though that he has promised to dismantle the CBC. He said the state should not do what the free market should, while arguing that the private sector proposes an abundance of news and culture in English. Trying to create the difference, saying that CBC is not needed because there are more than enough providers, but Radio-Canada is needed because there are not enough alternative providers. We made the point on the show that there are actually a similar number of providers in both, because there are 3 or 4 networks in Quebec, not counting specialty networks, and all of them run 24 hours a day. So there's the equal amount of programming, but just a smaller population base and a smaller group of people to do it. Let's remember that Mr. Carney, in turn, said that he wants to increase the financing of the public broadcaster to the tune of $150 million per year, and then wants to make sure that this financing is statutory in order to protect it from the whims of politics. The Liberal leaders, the Liberal leader to whom Mr. Lepage asked more questions, notably because the Liberal leader's answers were frequently more succinct, did not mention anything about CBC in their interview. Mark Carney seemed to want to be more well known by the Quebecois, reminding them of his experience as Governor of the Bank of Canada, Governor of the Bank of England, as well as the Special Envoy for Climate Action and Finance at the United Nations. I'm not perfect, he admitted, in reference not only to his mastery of French, but also to a couple of flubs at the beginning of the campaign, notably, goofing up the name of Nathalie Provost, who is a victim of the Polytechnic shooting, and then having associated that to the Concordia University. Quote, he said, I make mistakes, but I try to be transparent, and for me, it's better to be that way. In a French that was pretty clear, Mr. Carney affirmed, like he has for several weeks, that he was the leader who was best placed and more qualified to take care or to handle the unstable character of Donald Trump. Quote, You have to build the economy and you have to diversify while obtaining the respect of the United States, he said. And on that, we are starting to make progress. The Prime Minister, the incumbent Prime Minister, then continued on by reminding us of different positions his party has taken without making any new announcements, just as his opponent from the conservative side has done. On climate, for example, he indicated wanting to pursue the energy transition started by Justin Trudeau, but not closing the doors to pipelines. Quote, "We will only do it if there is social accessibility." This said, even though that he assured Quebecois, the audience, of having the same values as Mr. Trudeau, Mr. Carney decided to that he is going to put emphasis on the economy and on the tariff crisis. And quote, when he was asked how he was different from Trudeau, he says Mr. Trudeau was less interested by such things. So it remains to be seen whether this pivot or centrist pivot from the Liberal Party will benefit him as much as polls seem to indicate. One thing is certain, tout le monde en parle has once again imposed itself, at least from the perspective of political parties, as an important way to reach the francophone public, or electorate in this case. So that's what Le Devoir had to say about that. So again, Mark Carney and both Pierre Poilievre and Mark Carney getting pretty decent treatment for the performance at Tout le monde en parle. It's good to know. All right, sorry, pardon me. I'm jumping there a bit. Wanted to do that off camera, but oh well, you got to see it. Before we go, kids and cubs, one little piece of international news I'd like to bring you because, on this show, when we look at democracy, we'll also look at it a little bit internationally. And one of the things we have been looking for, we've been looking at of late, is political operatives, leaders of nations that have been being held accountable for things that they do that are definitely not okay. Recently, we have seen Brazilian, I think it's president in Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, get caught and sentenced. I believe Sarkozy recently in France also was convicted. We had in South Korea the president who tried to declare martial law. We had France Marine Le Pen as well lately, and wondering why it can't happen in the United States in particular. Well, there's another country in which it happened, and it was Peru this time around. It seems that Peru's ex-president and the first lady were sentenced to 15 years in jail for money laundering, of all things. So this is according to Reuters here, Marco Aquino at Reuters, saying a Peruvian court on Tuesday sentenced ex-president Ollanta Humala to 15 years in prison for receiving illicit campaign funds from a Brazilian construction firm, making him the nation's latest former leader to head behind bars. There's a bit of an issue in Peru with this. Humala and his wife were accused of receiving funds from Brazilian builder Odebrecht, now known as Novinor, in a successful 2011 election campaign. Humala's wife, Nadine Heredia, was also sentenced to 15 years in prison on Tuesday. Peru's foreign ministry said that following the verdict, Heredia entered the Brazilian embassy in Lima to request asylum. According to one of Humala's lawyers in Brazil, Marco Aurelio de Carvalho, Heredia has cancer and had previously requested permission to travel to Brazil for treatment, but the request was denied. In talks with the Peruvian government, Brazil is negotiating a safe conduct path that would allow Heredia to leave Peru and travel to Brazil. The Brazilian government source said. The source declined to be named as the ongoing talks are confidential. Humala, a retired military officer who led the Andean nation from 2011 to 2016, will likely carry out his sentence on a police base built specifically to house Peru's jailed leaders. They had to build the base because there were so many of them that were corrupt. Former Presidents Alejandro Toledo and Pedro Castillo are currently jailed at the site, while Alberto Fujimori stayed there until his release in 2023. During his trial, which lasted 3 years after an investigation which kicked off in 2016, Humala decried the charges as political persecution. Prosecutors alleged Humala received illicit funds in his 2011 campaign against Keiko Fujimori, the other former president's daughter, through Humala's Nationalist Party. His imprisonment will be effective immediately, even if he appeals the conviction. The court is expected to continue reading out the full sentencing over the next several days. Humala's lawyer, Wilfredo Pedraza, called the sentence excessive, saying prosecutors failed to prove the illegal origin of the funds. He said the defense plans to appeal once the final ruling is issued on April 29th. In one-time construction colossus, Odebrecht has admitted that it doled out bribes to governments across Latin America to help build its vast empire. It changed its names to Novornor in 2020 and is currently undergoing bankruptcy proceedings. Humala is Peru's second former president to be jailed and the fourth to be implicated for his role in the sweeping graft case known as Lava Jato. In 2019, former President Alan Garcia killed himself by gunshot wound as police descended on his home to arrest him for alleged corruption related to the firm. Yikes. The year before, Pedro Pablo Kuczynski was forced to step down after just 2 years in office. Meanwhile, Toledo was sentenced to 2 decades in prison last year after receiving $35 million in bribes in exchange for public works contracts. Former Odebrecht executives have said in Peruvian court that the firm had financed nearly all presidential candidates in the country for a nearly 30-year period. And that's why so many of them got caught, went to jail. So just a little bit of news there, kids and cubs, about justice and fairness and democracy breaking out slowly across the world, because it's nice to know that leaders who do corrupt things can be held accountable. All right, kids and cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless, so please tell your peeps and poops all about us. If you would like to make sure that you do not miss an episode of our show, kids and cubs, especially in podcast form, you do not have to. Thanks to the Ray Girl who sponsors our pod page. That's podpage.com/the-true-northeagerbeaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. And if you scan that QR code, if you're watching, that will bring you there too. When you go there and you click subscribe, hey, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, zip, comes directly to you. You don't have to go searching for it. We make it that easy. Now, kids and cubs, if you would like to help us in yet another way, then grab your surfboard and surf on down to our YouTube page, True North Eager Beaver Media. And we have some buttons there for you to smash with. Like, share, and subscribe. Click 1, click 2, click 3. It makes us very happy when you do, and it helps us with the algorithm. So thanks for that, eh? Now, if you would like to help us in yet another way, you can, because we do incur some financial costs to bring the show to you. And if you like what we do and you would like to support and encourage us to do more, well, then that QR code that just appeared will bring you to the Beaver Lodge Emergency Hydration Fund, otherwise known as our tip jar. If you're listening at home, that's ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver. If you go there, you can leave us a little something to let us know that you appreciate the show and that you would like more of it. Anything that you're able to contribute, because times are tough, we know, is very, very, very helpful. And we thank you for your generosity. Now, if you're not able to contribute financially, we want you to not worry about that one bit, because the gifts of your attention and your participation are the ones that matter the most to us. And we love to hear from you. So please write to us. truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is our email address. Please send us any questions that you have about politics. We would love to do a Q&A show, but we need questions from you to do it. So please submit them. We would like to be able to answer them. And if you have any other comments about the show, good, bad, or ugly, please send them there too. You can also reach us on our socials at True Eager at the Blue Sky Beaver Lodge. Same everything at True Eager on the Jitter. If you want to go to Facebook, that's our original home. You will find our blog page there, True North Eager Beaver. And if you're listening on YouTube, either with the Dan Fan right now live or later on, right down here in the comment section, just leave us a little something. We do read everything, even though we're not able to get back to everyone. By the way, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is where you can send us a direct transfer if you would like to make sure in your support for us that you are doing a 100% financial transaction that is fully Canadian and that avoids the US CE tech bros. All right? And that's a win-win for us because, well, you avoid them and we also get 100% of your donation. And it's all Canadian as well. So, hey, it's actually win-win-win. There you go. It's a good thing. Now, kids and cubs. Because democracy is something that you do, you know that there is a Quebec Liberal leadership race going on, and the results will be announced in June. Please do what you need to do to participate there. In Manitoba, there's a Progressive Conservative leadership race going on, and those results will be coming in on April 26th. If you're mailing in your ballot, April 22nd is the deadline to get them in. And of course, federally, well, we are in election period. If you're an incarcerated person, you get to vote today. If you're on campus, today is the last day of campus voting. Of course, you can vote at any returning office up till the 22nd. You do have to bring your proper ID with you and know the name of the candidate that you want to vote for, because you're going to have to write their name out on the ballot. And of course, vote by anticipation is from the 18th to the 21st. Even on holiday Easter Sunday, it is open. So please make it a plan to go to vote. And I know that there are other voting provisions being made for people who are in care facilities and stuff like that. So please look at that as well for your opportunity to vote. But do get out and vote. And remember, kids and cubs, please plan your vote and talk to people all around you about voting. Try to encourage them to go. Bring people with you. Make it a party. Make it a social event. But we need a high turnout this time. So please vote, 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 vote. All right. Words of wisdom. Mr. Grizzly gave them to you earlier, so we will leave you with that. Of course, they were the similar ones as I was going to say. It could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And you know what? I have got a little word of wisdom. I'm going to quote Saucy, who I believe is quoting someone when she says, "A vote is not a Valentine; it's a chess piece you use with which to change the world." So please do vote. And if you have the luxury of it, vote for something bigger than yourself as well. It matters. All right, kids and cubs, I'm back on the phone. So let's see if we can stick the landing. But I'm going to come back to you with a little bit of an Easter egg. So first, before I do that, let's take down these little QR codes so that we can see everything. And then let's make sure that we stick the dismount today. Here we go.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.
All right, kids and cubs, a little bit of Easter egg for you. Bianca Andreescu is back on the tennis courts after coming back from injury. For those who are tennis fans, she is injured often. I don't think she's played a full season yet since winning the U.S. Open all those years ago. But she is back on the courts, clay court. It's her first match back in about 6 months in Rouen in France. And so we'll see how she does there. There's another tennis player named Françoise Banda who left the sport for a while. I'm not sure if it was to pursue her education or for other reasons, but she has come back. So she's starting all the way from the bottom again. But she has returned to the sport, and it's nice. She did. Was fairly popular in Canada and Quebec for a time. I think she had won a particular match against Venus Williams that was very stellar at one point. So made a very early mark, and then seems that maybe focused on her studies or something, and is now done with that and is back to the sport that she is playing at a tournament in Tunisia at the moment. So good luck to them. Coming, returning to the game. We're having a little difficulty with our tennis players, unfortunately. The lower tier players are doing very well and are progressing well and doing that, but our elite level seems to be getting eliminated in the first round or second round very often, particularly on the Grand Slams and the 1,000 tournaments this year, even though they have, you know, Felix Auger-Aliassime has won 2 titles and Denis Shapovalov has won 1 this year. It seems to be they're not performing on the big stage and the big moments so far. There seems to be a little bit of a dip. So hopefully that will get fixed soon. And the same has been going for Leilani Fernandez, having trouble getting past the second round lately. So hopefully that will change. The last little bit I want to bring to you, kits and cubs, is another endorsement that Mark Carney received. And not just anyone, but he got one from Neil Young. Neil Young decided to make his views known. Excuse me, kids and cubs, I'm just going to duck out here to take care of my nose. Pardon me. There we go. It was about to leak there. So yeah, he wrote an open letter to Mark Carney saying that he was with them. I think this is particularly fantastic. Now, kids and cubs, anybody who knows anything about Neil Young, it's not that he's been afraid to be political, right? I mean, that's Neil Young has done certain things, you know, with rights to his music and all throughout his career, you know, to show that he is definitely politically active. He takes stances, but he doesn't necessarily make his views known in every election or makes a point, right? So this was kind of interesting, and of course, you know, Neil Young has a lot of fans, so I'm sure what he has to say does have a certain degree of sway with him. Parts of his letter include, I was looking for the actual letter itself so that I could read it, but so far all I can see, there it is. I could only find newspaper articles. That's why if you thought I was stretching, I was. But he basically says, I'm with you, Mr. Carney. That's the start of it, right off the bat. An open letter to Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney from Neil Young, written on April 14th. Dear Mr. Carney, I am writing because I want to tell you how much I appreciate and support what you are trying to do for our great country, Canada. Although I have lived in the United States for most of my life and recently became a citizen of the United States, I am a Canadian and always will be. Now a dual citizen, I was born in Toronto, lived in the small town of Omemee, Ontario, endured polio when I was so young I hardly understood what was happening to me and worried every day that I was going to die. It's a miracle I survived, and my childhood continued. My parents were wonderful. They let me have chickens. They let me play my guitar. Our dinner conversations covered everything from world issues to sports to stuff that was just plain interesting. But life isn't perfect, and our family split up. That's when I moved to Winnipeg with my mom, and the course of my life became clear. I became a musician and played at high schools and community clubs throughout the wonderful province of Manitoba. Like you, I've met a lot of people in my career from many walks of life, some who were wonderful, a great help to me, and some who were just there for a while. At this stage of my life, I am thankful to all of them who showed up and joined me on my journey. And I am so grateful to have had the luxury of a spotlight to bring attention to important causes and to try to lead the charge through my music for rights and fairness on behalf of the people. It was urgent for us all to speak truth to power. So now, here we are again. Canada is facing threats to its very existence, incredibly from people we thought were our friends. They want our resources, they want our land, they want our fisheries, they want our water, they want our Arctic, maybe they want our souls. I know the US president could use a soul. It takes more than bravado to fight this kind of a threat. It takes brains, deep economic knowledge of how the world works. It takes strong, intelligent strategies and the ability to recognize and seize opportunities, both at home and on the world stage. Opportunities that can bring a new level of prosperity and safety to people. People who right now may be paralyzed with fear as they look to the future of Canada and the world. Mr. Carney, I believe you are the person to do it. I believe you are the person our country needs to lead us through this crazy situation and bring us out the other side as a stronger, smarter, more resilient Canada. Our core values of caring and fairness and generosity intact along with our souls. Without a doubt, you've got the chops to get it done, and man, you have the guts to take it on. It's a heavy lift for sure, Mr. Carney, but I, for one, am with you all the way. Peace, Neil Young. And I think that's a good way to end it. So, kids and cubs, please tune in 6 p.m. For the French debate tonight. I will see if I can do something. I don't know if I will do something live, do something after whatnot, but I will try to do something. As you can tell, I'm at the Ottawa Beaver Lodge, and the fact that the time got changed to 6 p.m. makes things a little more difficult. When it was still at 8, I had time to get back to the Kingston Beaver Lodge in time to do something that might not be as possible. But I will do my best to have something for you later today with regard to the debate. All right? Et pour les amis francophones, le débat ce soir, 6 heures, pas 20 heures, mais 18 heures. Et vous pouvez écouter ça à l'antenne de Radio-Canada et d'autres diffuseurs. Je vais tenter de faire quelque chose ce soir, probablement en français. I will probably do the thing in French tonight if I am doing anything, just so you know, given that it is a French debate. I just want to say that in English. Donc, je vais probablement tenter de faire quelque chose. C'est un peu difficile peut-être pour moi de retourner à Kingston à l'heure pour le débat maintenant qu'il a été dévancé, mais je vais faire de mon mieux pour avoir quelque chose pour vous ce soir, soit pendant le débat et sinon après. D'accord? All right, everyone. And for those of you who like hearing me speak French, well, there you go. You just got a little dose of it. Have a beaverific day, everyone.